Welcome to Be in Tune. Join me, your host Darien, and my producer Joab, as we have conversations that deepen our connection with our higher power, ourselves, and the world around us. So, get ready to tune in, turn up that volume, and welcome to the Be in Tune podcast. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Be in Tune podcast. I am your host, Darien, and we also have. You can
You
introduce
already
yourself.
know. Your boy Joab, what's going on?
Not the salute. Look
I
at
know that
him.
was
Trying something different. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And listen, that's just great. This is great. Is that the Brooklyn way by any chance?
Is it the Brooklyn way? I feel like that's the Caribbean way. It'd be like, you know,
Because we were talking about
uh,
Brooklyn last week, and remember how I was like all caught up on trying to find this one lyric from it. Child, let me tell you this: I did not even look it up, and it still didn't pop in my way. But I just know Brooklyn
still.
way. Still, it's okay. I swear I'm gonna be driving like on a highway just randomly, and then it's all of a sudden it's gonna come up. It's okay.
But you said that last time, like, oh, later on in the day it's gonna pop up, and it still didn't come up. That was what? Oh, 7 days
I
ago.
know people are just gonna be like, Darren, just admit it that you don't know the song.
Dang.
But today's topic, what I want us to talk about, Joab, is kind of like semi-continue our discussion from our last episode. Because the last episode, man, we got I can't say we, you, sir, you got really vulnerable about a time in your life that you were just like feeling alone, feeling sad, feeling the pressure of everything, and you talked about how you reached out to your
Mm-hmm.
community and you were able to gain that support. But that was such a vulnerable act for you, such a vulnerable act to say, hey, I'm not doing so well, to a group of people that, yeah, you can semi trust, but at the end of the day, you don't know for sure if they're really going to be there or be able to give you the support that you're looking for. So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of continue that. How are you doing since that conversation?
Yeah. Just thinking back to it. I could even just say like kind of glad I did have that conversation just because I didn't realize it then, but I feel like having that conversation kind of prepared me to like be more vulnerable throughout this week. Um, which
Oh,
again, I wasn't expecting. I'll be completely honest. Um, yeah, but like it because I brought it up because it was on my mind. It yeah, just like helped me become more aware of that. Like because I was able to be vulnerable back then, I could even show up and like being vulnerable like now. So yeah. So since then it was, like it was important, that I kind of like said that and shared that, you know.
yeah. I was so proud of you when you shared
Oh,
that. I
thank you,
didn't tell
best
you that.
friend.
Of
I
course.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course, best friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, just very proud and inspired too. Because I was like, oh, he's just going for it. Like as you started talking, you were like, you when you said, Darren, you know this. And then you started to tell the story a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I was like, at first I was gonna interrupt you and be like, share what you only want to share what you only feel comfortable sharing. Um, but I think God was just like, let him talk.
Yes.
Just let him talk.
It be like that sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. It be like that. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And it all stemmed from the topic that we had last week, which was on social connections. It was on
Mm-hmm.
connections, and then we narrowed it down to social connection. And I think the question that we didn't answer is how can we make social connections?
Yeah.
And I actually love the fact that we're talking about this now this week. I love the topic on vulnerability. But this week too, I was on social media, and of course, you're seeing a lot of division happening. And we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get into all of that, the whatnots of all of that. But it seems like we're not listening to each other. Like there's seems like we're just not coming together. And I
Mm-hmm.
think too, if I recall like how we ended last I say last week because it was literally last week when you and I
Yeah.
recorded, but it's not going to be the last week for listeners. But in the last episode, um, I think I mentioned that there's some people that, if they want to be skeptical about how to make social connections, they can definitely be coming from a space of like, first of all, I don't even know what good and healthy connections look like. And seeing such a divide happening here and in this country, I'm like, that's fair,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and if people are just like, I don't have that experience, I wasn't raised in that. It's like, how is it that you're telling me to or encouraging me to do this thing that I'm not ultra familiar with? And then, of course, in my true therapist fashion, I was like, I must do a little bit of research. And in my research, came across this really cool article. So sweet, so simple, so short, straight to the point. And it's from Social Connectedness. The social creature, I should say. That is the name of the site. That is the name of the group. And they just talked about social connectedness. So I was like, oh, wow. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's an article out there. Of course, there's a blog out there talking about this. But both you and I read it, Joab, and I just want to know what did you think about it?
Oh my gosh, there was a few things that stood out to me, because they really broke down a lot of it. But I would say like one thing that really stood out to me, and I think we should really, I don't know, how do I explain this? I feel like we really should kind of dive into this topic more. Not us specifically, but just like, you know, the community as a whole.
Yeah.
Is what does it look like to have like those personal, like interpersonal, like relationships? Like, because I think there's an illustration where they have a picture of like it looks, I don't know, it looks like a cactus or a person, but there's three rings. And they say that one of the rings is like intimate connections. So that's like the innermost
Yeah.
ring. You know, that's like
Mhm.
your five closest friends. Like, you know, that's like best friends, people that you really can rely on. And then there's like the relational connections.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's like 15 to like 50 people.
Yes. Yes.
And then overall is like the collective connectedness. So that's where you get your 150 to like 1500 people. So like the general community.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to kind of identify those, because I think, yeah, that really does kind of help you, you know, navigate when you're in these spaces, like how you show up and how like people show up around you, and how well can you connect with those people in those different rings. So that really stood out to me the most, because I'm like, yeah, that's actually really good. And I feel like we don't really talk about that as much. And I'll be honest, there's even a bit of that I'm still not too sure about. I feel like I hear these terms thrown out about like, you know, different types of like non plutonic relationships, such as like confidants or like typical friends. So I feel like more information on that would be helpful when we talk about like, you know, making social connections, because it does play a big role into that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing that stood out to me when reading this, it was just that our intimate relationships, that is a 40%, according to when this was written, granted, and the research that was done, right? So there's always room for questions, right?
Hmm.
That is 40% of our energy and time that we give into connecting with our intimate relationships. And I loved, excuse me, I loved how it broke down what is intimate relationship. I have to read it because I was like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
remember. I'm not gonna remember this. I just know myself. Could never be an actress. I cannot remember the lines. But it says that intimate social connectedness is defined as the perceived closeness to a nurturing companion who affirms our values as individuals. I said, is
Hmm.
that why the people who are in my life, I really like them? Because they affirm my values as an. Then, of course, the other part of me was like, girl, you knew this. Like, really?
Right. Right.
But it was just a I really liked how it was phrased. I really liked
Yeah.
how it was phrased, and I was like, oh. And it says that studies have shown that we typically devote around 40% of our available social time to our five most
Hmm.
intimate social connections.
Yeah. And I think the key word in this, because I mean, you you hear the percentage 40%. I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of energy that you must expend to like maintain these like social connections. But I
Mm-hmm.
think what the key word in this is like nurturing companion, meaning like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not just one sided where you're giving the
Yes.
40%. It's
Yes.
reciprocated, and I think that's the most
Yes.
important part that comes out of
Yeah.
like this intimate social connectedness with these people. Is these relationships are nurturing. It's a two-way street.
For
um
sure.
so yeah.
Because they're affirming your values as an individual. You are doing the same for them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, look
Yeah.
at you being your little psychological bag there, sir.
I have my little psych hat on for a second. But that actually reminds me of one of the tune-up posts that we had recently.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I always talk about this because I think it's very important. But this topic was about who are you surrounding yourself with.
Oh.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of the slides was talking about. Let me see if I can find it. Like the power of influence. Because if we're talking about like you're making these connections about like a nurturing companion, like again surrounding yourself with people who have that capacity and are capable of showing up in that way, and like how this said, like affirming you when you need that. So I just want to read this slide where it says like the power of influence. The people around you shape your thoughts, actions, and success. Choose those who inspire and elevate you, as their mindset and energy can be contagious. Um, I don't know if you ever heard this. I'm pretty sure you have. I feel like in the Haitian community or Caribbean communities, like this is a very well known thing, but it's a saying that pretty much just says like, "Show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are."
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said about like, yeah, like when you are around a group of people, like there are just certain things that you take on for your own self, certain identities, I guess, that you'll take on for your own self. So it's important, like, and I say it's good to kind of audit your friendships so you kind of know like just where you are like in current day with these relationships. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And that's why we're talking about this too, right? The social connections. And granted, we only just kind of expanded a little bit on intimate, right? And then there's the relational, and then there's the collective.
Mm-hmm.
But it does but it goes back to our point of why we're talking about this. We can endure more when we are in community,
Yes, absolutely.
because when you got vulnerable last time, right, you pretty much kind of proved that statement to be true. You could go through what you were going through, um and I wouldn't say easier, but it just gave you like that extra endurance, that extra little pep in your step, that extra little motivation to just, yes, let's get out of bed and let's hit it. Let's hit it. Let's do this again, because you had the backing of your collective relationship actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about how BTM is the collective relationship
Mm-hmm.
here, right?
Should I read that definition of what the
Go ahead.
collectives? All right, cool.
You look like you
So
got
the
excited. So I
I
was
did.
like, I was like, let me not take this away from him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Give me my moment. Okay.
Dang, Joab.
I'm sorry. I got hype. Okay, but the collective social connectedness is the perceived presence of a meaningful connection with a group of people. Such groups can include teams, volunteer groups, schools, and organizations, for instance. Interacting with a network of community of people through common interests or a shared sense of purpose. Whether through occasional interactions at work, in a neighborhood, place of worship, or online, contributes to our collective identity, making us feel part of something larger than ourselves. And I think that last part is important because, again, I think we talk about this all the time with different perspectives. But when you have, or when you're in this group of a collective community, you, and I think you even said this, we're getting other perspectives. And if anything, that just
Yeah,
makes you a more well rounded person at the end of the day.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. I can say more. I started to stutter. That's why I was like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you do grow as a person when you allow different perspectives. to be in your sphere. It doesn't mean that you
Absolutely.
have to take on those different perspectives and you have to follow through. But when you allow an opposition, let's say, or when you allow an opposition or a sidestep or a parallel view and whatnot to just be in your sphere, it first of all just helps expand your noggin there. It helps you to just really learn something new, to put it so simply,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to look at something from a different point of view, hence why allowing different perspectives to be in your sphere. And that is such a growing act. Like that's called growth. That doesn't mean you have to agree with all different perspectives. And this is the problem that I'm seeing nowadays. And again, not trying to get political or anything like that, but that no, then there's no but. Period. Let me insert the period there.
Right.
And I can say that has been our problem in our human history. A constant problem in our human history. The struggle with being able to hold the space for different perspectives, for different points of views. Well, then how do you get to a conclusion and how you get to what is right and what is wrong? We love to get caught up in what is right and what is wrong. On the outward stuff, right? The things that doesn't affect us directly, right? When we have an opinion on something, like, and it's not our actions, right? Someone else's actions, we want to get caught up on the right or wrong. But when it comes to us, all of a sudden we're like, well, you need to remember that I was here
Mm.
and I was there. Yes, I can hold that space for you. I can hold the space that you were a scrub in this moment due to X, Y, and Z. And due to, I know, like a little intense, right? But I can hold the space for for your point of view on why you acted in a certain way. I can hold the space for another person's point of view and such. And it doesn't mean that I have to agree with it because I could just say, but that's not something I would do.
Mm.
And how can we get to at least a conclusion here, or what can we do better? I don't know. I think I'm jumbling. I'm rambling. That's what I'm trying to say. But we don't do that. That's a
No.
struggle for us in our human history and today.
And yeah. I mean, I'm even wondering, like the last part you're saying about like it's a struggle today. Like, what is preventing us from wanting to even just hear other perspectives? And I think I forget the saying. You know me, a scientist, but there was a saying where I forget the exact saying, and I forgot who said it, but I'm paraphrasing it. It's something about like how like the one thing that's like the most unlikely can become the most likely, or the one thing that's like usually counted out as like impossible can become possible. Um, and I think it's to be said like if you just kind of silence out everything around you and just like focus on you, you really are missing a big portion of life, your of perspectives, and you're also limiting kind of what you the knowledge you can gain, you know, from like hearing like other perspectives. Not saying like every perspective is again like something you have to accept, you know, but like again, like in the scheme of like again making you a well-rounded person, there could be some benefit from just hearing some things that can again give you better understanding for not just the world around you but for yourself as well. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about like not limiting the fact of just like trying to at least hear other perspectives.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't help but think about how, just to get a little spiritual here, how Jesus had 12 disciples. Granted, one he did not call. He was like, I'm coming. Just like, I didn't call you. We already know which one was that one, the traitor.
Yeah, right. I'm crying.
Here, got some beef with him. Um, but they all had their own temperament. I love the show The Chosen. Listen, if you're not into, if you're like, okay, this, I'm listening to this and the pod is getting a little too spiritual. I highly recommend this show though. The Chosen is such a good show, and no, they're not supporting this episode. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna shout it out. It's a really good show, and it's such a great depiction of what we read in the Bible and how Jesus was interacting with his disciples. And I love seeing it because it's like these guys were just all so different. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you had the two brothers that only cared about being on Jesus's left and right side, being like on the throne with him, right? You have another disciple that's a hothead, that's Simon Peter, right? Out here cutting ears off, right?
Oh gosh.
You have you have Matthew, who I love how the show depicts him, but he was a traitor. He was already considered a traitor in his own culture to his own people by being a
Mm-hmm.
tax collector.
Right.
Do you think Jesus really needed them? Do you think Jesus really needed to be rolling with them?
Nope.
Do and the thing is you could ask this question: did Jesus really learn anything from them? Jesus learned how to interact with them, these humans, these flawed humans.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a scene in one episode, and I forgot which season. It may be the second season, where Jesus is getting ready to write his most awesome sermon of the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. And the way the show depicts it is that it's Matthews that's there and is helping him work through it. And Matthew's like, but you said this and that, and Matthew's very particular. And Jesus is just like, you do me some good. Like he just like
Hmm.
affirmed him, like saying like the way his mind works and how he can be very particular, it helps him.
Hmm.
I'm like, this is the Son of God. Why would the Son of God say he helps him? But it helps him. It helped him to be a little bit more clear with his sermon, a little bit more precise, because Matthew's like, I do not understand what you're trying to say in this. Maybe we should just,
Hmm.
could you shorten it? Could you concise it? Did this happen? Who knows, right? But I love that depiction. And it's just like, wow, what is considered to be the most perfect being to ever have walked the earth still allowed themselves to be surrounded by 12 different perspectives,
Yeah.
12 different views, 12 different ways of faith, 12 different ways of how to execute faith, how to present as his disciples, as as followers. And I was just thinking about that, and I was just like, do we allow that? Again, you don't have to intake everything. And yes, you need to be mindful of who you're letting into your sphere,
Yes.
because not
Yeah.
everyone's deserving, right? Or maybe you want to put a limitation. You're like, you're right here. We're still the same sphere, but you're over here and I'm over here.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I just thought about that. I'm like, wow, even
Yeah.
even him allowed himself to just, first of all, have a community, create his own community, have his people. And I think he even had his more intimate relationships in those 12 too.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
he also
Ah,
had
dang.
yeah,
I didn't even think about that. That is so true. That is so true.
yes. Because out of the 12, not all 12 were there on um, that night that, he's praying, right? He didn't
Hmm.
ask all 12 of them to come with him and pray, right? And the ones that came, he's like, y'all can't stay awake. Wake up, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
But he didn't ask all 12. He only asked a
Hmm.
smaller group.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, and so like, well, not curious, but like we mentioned the innermost circle, which was intimate connectedness. Then we
Mm-hmm.
spoke about the outermost circle,
Mm-hmm.
which was the collective connectedness. Could we get into the relational connectedness?
Yeah.
Because I think maybe that would touch on. We'll see if it will touch on. But would you like to read it?
Uh, Thank you, Joab, for allowing me. Yes, I would. No, I'm just kidding. Do you want to read it? It doesn't
No,
really
no,
matter
no,
to me.
that's all you. Yeah, you got that.
I was teasing you though because of how excited you were to read the last one. I love it. All right. So, relational social connectedness refers to the perceived presence of friendships or family connections who provide support and mutual aid. It also says, too, these interpersonal relationships within our middle circle, which typically includes 15 to 50 people. I don't know 50 people like that. That would be, actually, no, just kidding. It's called
Yeah.
my family. Because, yeah, are more casual than those within our inner. more intimate circle, but still provide us with a sense of closeness and can be relied upon for substantial support, aka childcare, loans. You got to be careful with that one,
Mm.
and etc. Says that studies have shown that connecting with close friends and or relatives at least every 2 weeks predicts higher levels of relational social connectedness. This is so true because
Very
I kid you
true.
not, I was doing this and I didn't know that this is exactly what I was doing. My cousins and I on my dad's side, we had this initiative that we followed through on last year, which was that every month we were going to get together
Mm-hmm.
because we've gotten older. Our lives have taken us in some directions and such, so we just wanted to build like see if we could build like a sense of closeness, like maybe how some of us were, some of us grew up in DR, so some are closer to others than the ones who are here in the States, and so some have moved away, some have moved here, so it's just like, hey, can we kind of get together and see, right? And we're doing this every month, like once a
Oh,
month. It was just like, what's the next activity? Actually, we're due for a hangout this month, and I have to say it. I'm like, guys, what are we doing?
dang.
But yeah, we did this every month. That for my birthday last year, those homies were invited for my brunch. Not that they wouldn't have been in general, but like I decided to do like a small, more intimate thing, and I was just like, "Do you guys want to come?" And they're like, "We're there," and it was so cute.
I have a question, and
I
it just
love.
popped in my head. It might be a vulnerable one, but I do have a question for you.
Okay.
With these like intimate well, like the relational gatherings, like with family that you do every 2 weeks, what what has it been either doing for you, or what kind of has it like brought up for you, like things that you like needed but you didn't realize?
Ooh. So we don't get together every 2 weeks, just in case someone's like listening this and following this to the T. But every 4 weeks, at least we try. What has it done for me?
Mm-hmm.
So last a couple of months ago, we lost one of our own, and one of my cousins, unfortunately, passed away, and that hit us. I would say it hit us pretty hard. At least I am projecting my feelings onto to them and say that it hit us. It hit me hard because being at their funeral, I was able to stand there. I felt like extra proud in a sense, extra proud, surrounded by the rest of the gang. So it really did help me feel like I was a part of my family. I've always felt like I wasn't always part of my family. And of course, we all have perceptions, right, of things, and not to get too super into it. Um, but I've always felt like a bit of an outsider, being born and raised here, um, and not speaking the language as fluently, right? Not even going to the same church as them because a lot of them would go to a Spanish speaking church. I would go to an English one. And of course, going to different high schools, it's just like for some of our lives just took different paths. And it wasn't that one was good and one was bad. It was just two different paths and such. And we've had moments throughout growing up of being close, right? I have one that I like getting together with him because we talk about the things that we used to do as kids, right? And it's just so awesome because we will reminisce a little bit. But when that tragedy happened and I'm there at the funeral in a completely different in a different country, back in the homeland as I like to call it, right? There was this moment that we all had to stand as a family, and I felt like I was a part,
Mm-hmm.
like really a part. And I know I'm a part of the family. You know what I mean? Like I know that 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 I'm considered. Whenever anyone wants to talk about the genealogy and who has who kids and whatnot, I'm there. I'm mentioned, right? And heck, some of my cousins are like, "How many of us are there?" And I'm the one to be able to provide some facts, or provide some answers. But yeah, it just felt really like, huh, I'm a part of something. And it's what's cute too is that um one of my cousins had a daughter last
Mhm.
year, and so we all get like updated pictures on that sweet baby girl. She is so
Mhm.
precious, sassy too with her looks. I love it. She's gonna rule the world. That's what she's gonna do,
Mhm.
rule the world. um she'll look at you and be like, and who are you? And I'll be like, you've seen me 500 times. No, I'm just kidding. uh but yeah, it's cute because now we have like that bond of like, I get a photo every now and then, or I get a video, and I'm like, oh, I just feel part. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm not missing out. I feel like I'm included.
Mm. First of all, thank you for sharing. I mean, even like with like the tragedy you're sharing that happened, like I appreciate even sharing that vulnerable space. Um, and I think it's something to be said about like again, like because the reason why I was asking that is like you one thing you brought up is like you felt that like connectedness, like feeling a part of the family, even though you knew that you are, but it
Yeah.
like it's something else when I guess when you link up with the people that care about you and you care about them, like what that does for you, and I think um even in what the article was saying, like it provides that sense of that closeness and like that substantial support. So I was wondering, like, yeah, like you having that consistent quality time with them, essentially, like how like that support that's providing you. Um, yeah, because I think that's important. I could definitely see even how for you, like that definitely has helped, especially with like the tragedy that's happened. So yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that.
of course. Of course, you couldn't be the only one to get vulnerable here. Not that not that it's like a competition or anything, but it's
I'm
just,
crying.
no, but it's, I think it just, listen, like, it's life,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
When we go through tough things, and I can't sit here on a hot mic, as I hear someone else say, right? Another podcaster say, on a hot mic, right? I can't sit here on a hot mic and encourage vulnerability or talk about something like this and not, in a way, do it myself. And you hit the nail on the head when you're like, you felt that sense of connectedness, and that even when the tragedy struck, you just like, it was there, you felt it. And it's true.
Mm,
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that that's what helped, for me, because everyone is on their own journey, as in terms of grieving and mourning the loss of my beloved cousin. But for me and my journey, it's I think it went a little, quote unquote, smoother because I had that connection. Because I imagine if I rolled up there not feeling connected, not feeling a part and
mm.
such, like, then I would have, I think it would just added to the pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If anything, I maybe I wonder would that kind of make you feel more isolated, and the
Y-
isolation would add to that
Yes,
pain.
exactly. That's what that pain would be, coming stemming from,
Mm,
yeah, that isolation. Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
yeah, a lot of people. That is a reality for a lot of people, like where they're in that isolation, or probably someone who's like in that same predicament now, where it's like,
mhm.
like there is a death in the family, but they're not even close with like their family, or there is no, substantial support from the family. So it's like going through that, like that's difficult. Um, to even like go through that process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also feel like I feel like I should say this too, right? For anyone who's listening, they're like, okay, so you did this and this is working out well for you. It's not perfect. It is
Mm,
far from perfect. You know what I mean? Like, this that we're talking about, making social connections, Joab and I know very well that what we're suggesting and what we're talking about is difficult. And even when you're
yeah.
doing it, it takes time. And I was just telling Joab, I am not a patient person. Joab was talking about, we were talking about planting seeds and harvest. I'm like, I want the harvest now. I just, like, I'm not comfortable with the planting of the seed and the watering and the sunlight and all of that. Like, I'm impatient. And I'm just be honest. I'm like, some things I can be patient for, and other times I'm like, I want this now. Like, I want
Yeah.
this connection to be solid and be great, and bam. Like, I want to be able to go to that one group and bam, have my BFF. I want to be able to go to this one event and bam, I'm making connections. I'm leaving there with like so many numbers or so many Instagram handles I'm following. Okay, that is a beautiful desire. And it takes time and
Yeah.
patience and prayer if that's a thing that you do. Prayer. And one thing that I've learned in this process of trying to make these connections with my homies, as I call them in my head, right? With my cousins, is that I realized some things about myself. One, I'm a terrible person in connecting with. I'm terrible at times, literally saying, hey, you've been on my mind, and I just want to shoot you a
Mm,
text. I'll think it, but because I got 5,000 different things going on, or I get a little insecure, I don't do it. That's one way to start building connections. And I think actually, Joe, this is great for us to transition over into that list, because there's one
yeah.
particular thing that I told you that's on the list. I'm like, we need to talk about it.
Hmm.
So, of course, in doing research, Joab is literally getting a whole doctorate degree in research, right? Not in research, but that's what you do.
Fair, fair.
That's in my mind. That's all he does, right? Is we I actually looked it up. I was like, how does one make social connections? It's in 2025. Now,
Hmm.
there's one thing on this list that I'm like, you should consider it. Don't knock it, but you should consider it. But
I
it's
agree.
spend quality time with friends and family. Okay.
Hmm.
What does that mean? Exactly that. Spend some quality time. Sometimes it just means like, hey, do you want to grab a coffee? And try it with the friends and family that you do like the family that you do like. I mean, if there's a family member that for whatever reasons you're like no, then of course keep it like that for
Hmm.
whatever your reasons are. But s- schedule it. It's so sad that we have to schedule some things. Yes, but that's how our lives are now.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if anything, I mean, you should know this about me. Like listen, I will pencil anyone in my schedule. If there's an open space in my schedule, I look forward to penciling someone in and be like, oh, this is quality, catch up time or quality chill time with family. Because it's like it gives me something to look forward to because I treat the connection as again an opportunity to like, well, be connected, to spend that quality time. And I could say like that's important for me also because again, attachment styles for me, like quality time.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sorry, a love language is like quality time is my number one. So I really do enjoy that and definitely need that for sure. But yeah, it's something to look forward to, definitely. And it doesn't have to be. And I think the other thing, it doesn't have to be anything complex. I think one of the things it was saying is simply just like grab a phone call and just have a chat, or like you're saying,
Yeah.
like go out for coffee or for lunch, like just being in close proximity with the people that you love and they love you.
Yeah. Another thing that's so true. And by the way, Joab's scheduler is like color coded. I just want folks
It
out there
is.
to
It
know.
is.
He gets excited. I can tell he gets excited when he has to color code something.
I have to. I really have to.
I love
It
that for
helps keep
you.
me sane.
I love that for you. I would like to say that I would love to be at that level. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know if I can be at that level because am I going to put the effort to be at that level? That is all. But when you sent me your schedule when you were coming to visit and you were at the conference, I said not me and the podcast be having our own color code. I said
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Hanging with Darian and doing the pod. I was like, I like
Hmm.
this. Another thing, volunteer with a group or an organization.
Hmm.
Listen, there are so many volunteer groups out there that can use the people. I'm gonna make a statement and it could be a little judgy, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Put down the phone and get out there. Put the phone in your back pocket. Take the phone with you because you're going to need your phone. Take the phone with you, put it in your back pocket, and help. Help in whatever you want. Right. And that's actually something
Yeah.
I would love to look into more this year myself. I feel like I need to get more involved in my community, which is the next on the list. Getting more involved in your community. There's a lot that's happening, a lot of changes, not so
Mm-hmm.
good changes that are being put into place here. Your community needs you. You need your community. Your
Yeah.
community needs you and you need your community. So what does that look like? Right? So what is your community and how can you get involved? Get to know your neighbors. I try to wave at my neighbors or smile at them whenever I'm walking around in the neighborhood. And I realize that sometimes I can have a very serious face because I'm either listening to something or stranger danger. I still got that thing since I was a kid. It's like, who are you? Me and my baby cousin are alike in that sense. It's
Oh,
just the look.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I realize I'm like, first of all, are we showing the love of Christ by you could show the love of Christ by showing a smile, like
At
or saying
least,
hello,
yes.
at least. So I always like to do like a nice hey, how's it going? Do I know them? No, but at least they've seen me in the neighborhood and I've seen them. And I bet you this is what's gonna happen. When the summertime comes, my neighbors are walking around more in the neighborhood and watch conversations happen. Actually, I have one neighbor, I just don't know her name, but but her dog always comes up and says hi to me whenever we cross paths. And she's like, "It's a chilly morning, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's just like, I heard that it's gonna snow later. Oh dear God! Like those are our little interactions. But we've seen each other. We've said hello. So there's
Mm-hmm.
that. If you can do, join a community garden. I was like, that was interesting. That was an interesting.
But I guess that's a thing. Listen, that's a thing.
But
That's a thing.
since we are here talking about planting seeds and harvest, go ahead, plant your
There
seeds
you
and
go.
pick up your daffodils or your
There you go.
sunflowers. But that's actually I've heard of those, and I heard that those are awesome. Or one thing I would love to do is yoga in the park.
Oh, I can imagine they do that, and I know they do that at least in the city in times. No, in Central Park, they do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be nice. That'd
I
be
wonder if they
nice.
do that in Common Park, in Boston.
Yeah,
So
probably.
yeah, in the Commons, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, I would love to do that, and I think that that's a great. You just never know who you're gonna meet.
Nope. You never know.
You never know. Express gratitude to others.
That's a big one. That's a big one. I know like kind of like sound like a broken record at this point, but that just saying that kind of reminds me of the story you told about the woman wishing the man, I hope you have a good day before he was
Mhm.
trying about to do like a heinous act to a plane. Like expressing gratitude is big. Like that could
Yeah,
literally like just turn someone's whole day around and you won't even know it.
right. Absolutely. One thing I've started doing with my intimate relationships is started telling them I love you more. I care for
Mm-hmm.
you, or I want to acknowledge you and I want to thank you for this. Like, Job, I've sent you some texts. I'm like, bro, thank you for riding on this crazy roller coaster with me, or thank you so much for doing this, or I see you.
Yeah,
I'm really appreciative, and I just feel like that's just helped deepen our relationship, like
absolutely.
make us feel more connected. I've done that with my sisters, and that has been awesome, especially with one sister that I've been doing that with more, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just the connection continues to get deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, bro. Like
Hmm.
I could relate. I mean, personally, I could even say like my best friend who I've known for like 23 plus years since like pretty much we were in diapers, next door neighbor, um, recently got engaged and now he's getting married in June. So I'm gonna be the best man for his wedding.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and it's like he's like my brother, like again. But it's crazy because even after like 23 plus years of being like best friends, you would think like it can't get any deeper than what we've had after 23 years. But like no, recently, like in the spaces that we've both been in, like it's gotten deep. Like we've literally had to like pray over each other, like really like hold each other accountable, like speak life and validate each other, and like really just love on each other as brothers. Even today, he was praying for me yesterday because I was going through something. And we were funny. We were hopping on a game, and like literally in the middle of the game, we just put the controllers down and just like prayed like together. And I really had to hit him up this morning. I'm just like, yo, bro, like I love you, bro. Like I really appreciate you, like, just praying over me and like speaking life into me. Um, and I've done the same for him. And it's just like, but that's what that does, because like again, like you need that kind of closeness, that connection, and that's very important.
Yeah.
Expressing gratitude like really does mean a lot. And I think about the person who maybe like no one's ever expressed gratitude to you,
Yeah.
and that's not fair, because I
Yeah.
think everyone deserves to be loved, everyone deserves to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're listening to this, like take some affirmations for you. When I say this is like you're seen, and even if like I physically can't see you, but like I'm thinking of that person who is listening to this, and it's going through the hard stuff, because again, life is life. You know, things are going to get hard. But I think like having hope that there are other people on this earth with you that are also trying to figure it out just as much as you are, and that being able to relate to you in some capacity, I think is worth holding on to, because we both could see each other and validate each other and affirm each other as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you said that, Joab. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Expressing gratitude to another person is a way of you seeing them. It's a way of you validating them. Last on the list, active listening.
Ooh, ooh, yikes.
Joab, would you like to tell the audience what is active listening?
I'll be honest. Well, like read the definition.
You can, or just in your own words.
I guess like I can give
Yeah.
I'll try to give my own interpretation of it, but I feel like listening to me is like you're hearing the other person and like what they're saying, but I think active listening is like probably a deeper level of that, of like maybe like hearing the verbal but also the nonverbal, like being fully tuned into like what the person is saying, um a lot of the cues. And I think that stuff can kind of get missed out, and that can kind of like make the person not feel heard. So I think that's what active listening like
Mm-hmm.
comes out to me. Is that close? Again, I'm just
Yeah.
spitballing it. So
No, it is close. Do I have an exact definition? No. Sounds good to me.
what? Let me look up the actual definition. Hold
I know you
on.
were going to look
Let's
up the actual
see.
definition, so that's why I was. But it's indeed that. It's when we are active listening to someone, we can first of all repeat back what they said, not be a parrot, but actually repeat back what they said, and you can even expand on it too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving them eye contact, right? You're saying, okay, this is how you feel, and if you could say how they feel, they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, you really are listening to me. Um,
Hmm.
so eye contact, um, be able to repeat back what they say, and be completely tuned in with them. Your attention
Yeah.
is definitely on them. What is the actual definition of it, though? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it says active listening requires you to listen attentively to a speaker, understand what they're saying, respond and reflect on what's being said, and retain the information for later. This keeps both the listener and speaker actively engaged in the conversation. So
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much on par with what we were saying. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You can tell I was actively listening to Joab when I can reference back to what he said in a previous podcast. And you can tell that Joab's
Mm-hmm.
actively listening to me when he can reference back to what I've said, not even in the previous podcast, but like 5,000 podcasts before. I'm like, wow, he's really listening.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Joab, sometimes you have sent me a text, you're like, hey sis, I never checked in with you about this. I was like, we talked about this 3 months ago. Like, but it's not, I'm like, dang, you really were listening. Or just, wow, I thought you forgot. Cause I forgot. That's what it is.
I'm crying. Nah, you know what it is though? I feel like I'd be like I active listen too much, so I feel like I have to offload some of my active listening into notes, so like that at least I could take a mental note of it. So when I look back at the notes, be like, okay, this is a thing, Because listen, you can active listen too much, and your brain just be full of just memories and thoughts. But yeah, I think it's important. I really think it's important.
I just
Yeah.
love how your scientist mind works because you're like, I should offload it and make it into notes. I was like, sure, Joab. To me, I'm just like, I'll just tune out. It's like night and day over here. I love it.
I'm crying. I mean, listen, I mean, not for everybody. Some people, I just try to act to listen. If if it applies, I mean, if it sticks, it sticks. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for the more like again the important like the intimate relationships,
Yes.
where I really want to prioritize, and that's where that 40% comes out of. I will absolutely do that for absolutely.
Yeah. No, of course,
Yeah.
because like you are affirming the values that makes them an individual, and they've
Mm-hmm.
done that for you. I think, just to wrap up, in essence, what we're saying is following this list, like active listening can. I love that it's on the list. It's like wow, talk about you really giving a person your under like the attention that they so rightfully deserve. You could do this not just with only your intimate relationships. You can do this with like people that you're like I don't even have a relationship with. The barista at your favorite cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Express the gratitude and say, by the way, this was done perfectly. Thank you so much for the attention to details. They'll be like, oh, okay. Because of course, in today's society, especially if you're in the East Coast, it's like weird to give a compliment.
Yeah.
Um, but they'll be like, oh, okay. They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Just doing my job. And you could just be like, no, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. And
Yeah.
if they happen to say something too, you can reflect back what they said. You can acknowledge it. Like I've had this happened to me. Some things has just happened to me that I'm like, is it because I have a therapist tattoo on my forehead? Like I just don't. I was in the grocery store one day. It was during the pandemic. I just wanted to grab some lemons, and so I'm walking to the section to grab my lemons, and the lady's blocking the area of the lemons. Like I couldn't go around her or couldn't, you know what I mean? She's just blocking it. So I said, "Excuse me," and she's like texting. And I said, "Excuse me." And I said, "Oh, she can't hear me because I'm a mask." I said, "Excuse me." And she still didn't hear me. So I was like, I'm not going to touch her, but I'm going to get a little bit close to her space. And I was like, "Excuse me, I just want some." And she looked at me. I'm like, "I just want some lemons." She's like, "I am so sorry. It's just, oh, I'm so sorry. My son, this," and starts spewing out some things. And I'm grabbing
Mm.
the lemons and I'm listening. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, she's like, I just literally dumped on you, and I'm sorry. You probably don't even remember what I was talking about. You probably think I'm wackadoo. I'm like, and I'm literally like wrapping the bag. I'm like, it can be tough to do this and that. I'm like, I really hope it works out. Maybe you want to consider being just kinder to yourself and all that. She's like, you were listening. You're
Mm.
talking to me. That's my attitude, at least. That's just my thing. And sure, there's some people that then there's some people in life, they're not making any sense whatsoever, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna let them ramble. And I can acknowledge it. I'm like, no, it just sounds like you needed to get that off your chest. But for her, I'm grabbing my lemons and I listen to her, and she's like, she just looked at me so surprised, and she's like, thank you just for being so kind. I'm like, it's not a big deal to me. I really hope you have an awesome day, and I really hope everything works out. And then she's like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I'm a therapist." She's like, "I must have known." I'm like, "Okay, ma'am, let's not go
Ah.
into let's not go into it." But it's did I become BFFs with this person? No. Have
Mm.
I seen her again? No. Did I get her name? Absolutely not. I don't even know who she is. I can guess a name, but I could probably be really wrong. How did I feel at the end of the interaction? Oh, I felt like I was part of my community a little bit because she was in the
Mm.
same town as me, in the same space as me, in the same grocery store. And I just took a moment to listen to a member of my community.
Yeah.
Did it help with my social connection issues? Like let's say if I was in that season of my life that I'm not connecting with anyone, it didn't fix it, but it definitely gave me the opportunity to practice my social skills. it definitely gave me the opportunity to see if I can make a connection. And that's what it
Mm-hmm.
was. It was just a connection. It wasn't like anything lifetime, worthy or anything like that. Again, I don't even know who she is, and I haven't bumped into her again. So maybe she didn't even live in the same town as me,
Mm.
but she was just happened to be in my community, and we just happened to be in the same grocery store near the lemons. I really wanted the lemons really bad just to get out of there. Let's not make it complicated.
Yeah.
Let's not make it complicated. Let's learn to listen to each other. Let's learn to tell those that we love them.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time to do that. All right. Let's join the community garden if we want to. Let's volunteer. Let's genuinely help out a community. If there's a friend that's active in the community and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a person to help out over here," maybe take them up on it, their offer, or their inquire more about their complaint slash request, whatever it is. Let's actually see what we can do. Um, in our physical spaces. Let's see what we can do off of this space here.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Joab and I are part of the same virtual young adult worship group, church group. So we have to use this to stay connected with one another. But it also took time for us to use this tool in the most awesome and healthiest way. Actually, speaking of which, I got to follow up with one of our members because they talked about how they were in the hospital and they instantly
Yeah.
put in the chat, "I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the hospital, say a prayer," and people were like, "Got you." But that was time in the making. That's another thing. Be patient. You're
Mm-hmm.
planting a seed. When you plant a seed, it doesn't grow instantly. They taught us that in basic science classes, right?
They
The
did.
little
Yeah.
plant, the little cups, and the little plant, the little seed. My seed never grew because it could be that I just didn't do something well. But the point is, it takes time and be patient.
Yeah.
You have a choice. You could not connect and you could stay isolated. And maybe you're in that space because for a variety of reasons. And one reason is it wasn't your choice. Okay. It wasn't your choice. And we just talked about there is three different dimensions of connectedness. Maybe
Yeah.
let's look at the collective one. That's the one on the outer ring. It's not the first ring, it's the third ring, right? Or it depends on how you're counting, right? It could be the first ring, how you which direction you're counting, right? But it's the outer ring. Is there a church that you've always been interested in going? Do you need to start going to church, right? Or a place of worship? Is there a band that's coming in that you've always wanted to go to their concert? And it's like, what the heck? Why don't I just go? I'm gonna make it up by myself, but you just never know who you're gonna connect. But at least you're gonna
Yeah.
be with like more than like 500 people sharing one common thing, which is the love for this band.
Yep.
Start there. Just start there. And note that Joab and I, we hear you, we see you, and we always, always hope for the best for you.
Absolutely.
We pray for it. Let's transition over to our member of our community highlight. I love it. I love that we do this. This is just so awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Very important.
very, very important. So, the member of our community we want to highlight, they're technically not members of our community, but they are members of the world. So, therefore, they would be part of our community on that grand scale. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
want to give a shout out and a highlight to Ukraine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not going to go into it. Let's just say that they've been in a war for several years now. I'm sure they're sick and tired of it. As well as the rest of us who are watching it are tired for them, right? And just want them to have a level of peace. So if you can, say a prayer for Ukraine, right? Um, Read up on them, right? Support any businesses that are Ukrainian owned. Um, and if you want to donate, we're going to put a link in our all of our socials, right, and whatnot. So just in case you want to do that, if you want to, again, it's Joab and I have no contract, nothing with Ukraine.
Yeah.
But we just know that they've been going through quite a lot, along with the yes, the rest of the world has been going through a lot. There's other countries, other places we can highlight, but like I said, given recent events, I just want to give a shout out to them. So
Hmm.
let's just have peace. Like
Yeah.
let's just this. There's like I said, they're sick and tired of everything as well. We have to remember that, and we also have to remember all of those that got displaced from their home. That had to be
Yeah.
rough. So Joab, I didn't know if you wanted to add to that or
No,
that's
I
it.
think that was beautifully said. But I do agree. Like, definitely, like praying for peace. And I think especially it is our duty as Christians
Yes.
that we are peacemakers and peacekeepers. So praying for peace is important.
Yeah. So, with that being said, take some really good care of yourself, listeners. All right. Remember, you're
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And the most important thing to remember, be in tune. Peace.